All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Bowker, very excited to be talking to an individual who is coming off a big win at BKB 45, getting rid of Corey Harrison in the first round by way of TKO, Dr. Stoppage, and very excited to talk to Lucas Browne on Bare Knuckle Bowker today. How are you doing though, man? I imagine you're feeling pretty good after a win like that.
Indeed, I'm feeling very good. The other thing is I've just had 2 days off, so that's also very good. I've really just I've sort of stayed in bed and caught up with all the social media and all that sort of stuff, watching clips. Yeah, as a boxer or a fighter, I should say, I'm my own worst critic. So I'm always looking at things and how I could have done better, etc. But considering it was my pro debut in the bare knuckle, I'm extremely happy with how I went. And I'm not gonna lie, it brought back that like little bit of fear again, which is good. So many years in boxing, I was like, yeah, I'll be right. Just guard up and away you go. But you can't do that in bare knuckle, of course. So it becomes a real street fight again, and yeah, it gave me that little bit of a fire, and that's why I was smiling so much. I'm like, this is fun. As bad as that may sound to other people, it was fun. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been relaxing, and I'm actually heading off to the gym very soon, just do some weights and stuff. Let's get back into some sort of training and get the ball rolling again.
No, that's incredible, man. And I think that, speaks to your mindset because I think a lot of people would have watched a performance like that and just really taken away, I guess, just purely the positive aspects. But I mean,
Yeah.
someone like yourself who previously in glove boxing became Australia's first heavyweight champion and, championship aspirations in bare knuckle from what I was seeing as well. So it makes sense that your mentality would be oriented to that, just that growth towards becoming a two sport champion and all.
Yes. I've never really been celebrated correctly in Australia for the world title, due to the drug issues that came out of it. I was cleared. I do have the belt, but the damage was already done. So I think at least this way, if I can push towards becoming a two-time world champ, then there's no question behind it. It's just like I am who I am, and here we are. Yeah. So I fought MMA for a world title. Unfortunately, it was for Daniel Cormier, so I got belted, but I still fought for one. So at the very least, I know that I'm at a decent level all round. So I'm very happy with that.
Well, I mean, you have an incredible resume, man. And I was going to touch on that at a certain point in the chat, but just because you mentioned it, I mean, fighting for a title against someone who's a multi-division UFC champion, one of the all-time greats in the sport, I think that really speaks to your gamesmanship and pedigree as a fighter, taking on someone like Daniel Cormier. Like you kind of mentioned, I guess the outcome not going your way per se, but like I guess what are your maybe I guess recollections of the fight and I guess just seeing the legacy Cormier was able to put together thereafter after you guys fought in July 2010.
The way it started, I was actually supposed to fight his gym mate by the name of Mike Kyle. So he was a UFC fighter at the time, but 6'4" and a stand-up fighter. So it was a very different sort of aspect. And 2 days out, he pulled out and they put Cormier in. So I'd already sold so many tables and this, that, and the other. So I basically just said, "Oh well, let's do it," and no, knowing he was a wrestler of sorts, but I'm a big, strong guy. But yeah, wrestling strength and obviously the precision that comes with it, it was definitely a tell in the fight. So I threw a jab. He didn't even see it. So I thought, this is good. And then bang, took me straight down. So I was basically a turtle on my back for most of the fight. I got up, straight back down, got up, straight back down. And it was an elbow across the eye here that did it, 13 stitches. I literally couldn't see what was going on and was just getting pounded. And the ref called it. I went, thank you. So I was definitely done. But yeah, to see him progress in his career and become who he became, it at least makes me feel better.
Well, it kind of almost acts as like a microcosm of your story in a way because I was seeing and doing my research on you that you didn't even really get your combat sports career rolling until you were like already in your 30s and you didn't have any
Yeah.
amateur fights. Like you're just like Let's dive right into it. I mean, to fight someone like Cormier, especially on short notice when you're preparing for Mike Kyle, who, like you said, much more of a striking centric kind of fighter, to now fighting someone who was an Olympic wrestler. I mean, really just, yeah, speaks volumes and everything like that. Where do you, I guess, get that mentality from? Because, like I said, I guess with the prior example of when you began your combat sports career, and obviously you've done, great things since then, like, where does that kind of, I guess, ethos or mindset come from, you think?
It was basically a point where my ex-wife and I broke up, and we were in Sydney, in Australia, so one side of the country. She moved to the other side to Perth, and I was sitting there going, "I have all this time in my hands. What can I do?" So I'm not the sort of person that would look at a TV and say, "I could have done that," because that's just a cop out. Basically, I'd rather do it and fail than know that I've actually done it. So that was the only reason I started. I thought, I've got this time. I'd like to have, and this was my mindset at the time, I'd like to have a belt in boxing, kickboxing, and MMA, like just a belt, not a world title, just a belt. And that's how it started. So I jumped into the cage with pretty much no training, let alone prior or anything, but no training. 2 weeks later was a kickboxing fight, and a week later was a boxing fight, and that's how it began for me. So I concentrated on the MMA for 2 years. Then specifically after the Cormier fight, I thought, okay, if I actually want to be successful in this and UFC, etc., everyone's going to wrestle. So I know I'm sort of out of length here, and I don't kick either, so it's just punching. So I thought to myself, what, I'll just box. And world title later, here we are. So it's worked out well.
Did you have a similar moment with bare knuckle in as far as like seeing it and kind of have, I guess, having that interfacing where you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm intrigued by that. I don't want to have that moment thereafter where it's like, oh, I could have done that. Like, was there a moment where you saw bare knuckle and you were like, yeah, you know what? This is the next move. Let's do this.
Basically, it was almost a bucket list thing for me because I'd done the MMA. I had a kickboxing fight, and that was enough. And then the 14 years of boxing, I just thought to myself, well, it's here, it's growing. I'm good at what I do. Let's just give it a go. So the fear was there, which I loved, and it was a nice feeling to go through that process again, almost like it was my first time, which is good. So luckily, yeah, I've got the experience and the old head to be able to move in and out. But with a boxing sort of point of view, you can stand there with your guard up and just take punches, so to speak. You cannot do that in bare knuckles. So it really made me sort of move around. And looking back at the interview, so the commentators, they're like, "Oh, his footwork's so good." I'm like, I didn't want to get hit. That was the only reason why. So it worked in my favor, luckily. And why would you want to get hit in the face with the bare knuckles? So that is always going to be the plan. Move as much as I can, avoid as much as I can. Luckily, my distance was good, just that moving in and out. My biggest concern was also breaking my hand on someone's head. So luckily, the way the punch turned over, it hit me on that first knuckle, which I don't hit on that. I hit on the other three. So it didn't break. I'm very happy. So I, there was so many things I did want to do more, but I was extremely cautious and wary of getting punched back, etc. He was swinging for the fences, especially after the cut. So he was swinging, and if I got caught with one of those, I would have gone out. So I was just biding my time, doing what I was doing. When he did clip me with one, I smiled and said, "Now it's a party." So I was actually thoroughly enjoying myself, and it was good. No doubt they're going to get harder and worse. But that's where we're at. I'd like to get a two-time world champ, and I'd be very happy, man.
Yeah, and I feel like you're coming into the sport with like a good, toolbox as it were, because I feel like certain people who purely come into bare knuckle from like a strictly, I guess, gloved boxing background, I feel like sometimes the infighting kind of active clinch component isn't really in their muscle memory quite as
Yep.
much. Like obviously you can drill that more so, but with you coming from MMA and then the boxing experience on top of that, while also treating bare knuckle as its own separate kind of sport, it seems like you have a great recipe for BKB action and stuff like that.
That's right. I'm extremely comfortable with what I would call dirty boxing. Obviously, with the bare knuckle, you can actually have the one hand clinching. It did not cross my mind during the fight, unfortunately. So I wish it did, but it didn't. And I'm sure at some point it's going to go ding, 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 and here we go. So imagine me holding you with a nice tight grip around the back of your neck, and then this hand just going bang, bang, bang. So like it's there, but it hasn't sort of come to fruition just yet. But we'll get there.
And I'm kind of wondering because I feel like a lot of people have talked about this because of your prior history with him in gloved boxing and with Kamil Sokolowski being the number one contender in BKB right now. Like, is that kind of the desired next one? Like, is that one you're kind of wanting to run back? I guess just to, behoove that quest to gain a title in a new organization, new sport, etc.
I think from his point of view, it's just he's just chasing me to try and get one back, and that's it. Like, fair enough, he can do whatever he wants. But for me, I've been there and done that now. It was a hard fight. It was a great fight. So would prefer to do another boxing match with him and actually sort it from a boxing point of view. But he's only doing bare knuckle because he got a 3 year ban from boxing anyway. So like how does that fit with me knowing that he's banned from boxing from taking whatever he has, but now he's in bare knuckle? And like, shouldn't I be worried? Shouldn't I be concerned of some sort if he's allowed to do bare knuckle, but is he taking something? Is he on something? Like all these sort of questions arise as well. I'd rather go straight for the world title. And I came in at like 124 kilos, like when the first weigh-in, and I didn't realize there was a super heavyweight. So I had to go sit in a sauna and actually cut down to I was 120.8. So just on the mark. And I didn't realize that there was a super heavyweight. So I think he was going to fight in the super, and I'm in the light, but he's lighter. So I don't know. I don't know how it works. There's a chance of a three-time world champ. You want to be smart about it.
I mean, it is kind of interesting because I mean, you talk about his, I guess, issues with not being able to get licensed in gloved boxing, and you kind of touched on your prior situation with your, drug suspension, and it seemed like even when all that was going on, you were very forthright about it, and it was almost more of like an oversight than it was like a conscious, I guess, deliberate attempt to, I guess, cheat or to use an illicit substance. Like, did Sokolowski's test kind of resonate differently to you in that kind of sense? I guess I'm kind of maybe picking up on that a little bit, or maybe I'm misunderstanding, perhaps.
Um, well, I'll take you back to my world title then. I knew that I was going into Russia, and Russia at the time was having dramas with the Olympics and banning and all sorts of stuff. So I personally paid for the testing. So I went into the fight knowing I'm getting it tested because I paid for it. So 3 days before the fight in Chechnya, I tested completely clear. So then why would I take clenbuterol with me to then take 3 days before a fight? That's going to do nothing because I've already cut the weight anyway. It's going to give you the shakes, and it's probably the worst thing you can do for a world title. So why would I do that? And I think that all sort of come out. I had a lie detector test. I had hair follicle sample test. Nothing was in my system. So again, why would I? So I was cleared, but unfortunately, all the damage was already done. I was supposed to fight Klitschko next. So there's my couple of $1 million fight, and you know at that stage, I probably wasn't ready for him, but I was still going to do it. And but that was my moment, and my moment was taken by someone else. It wasn't my fault or doing. Where Sokolowski's like obviously it's his own doing, so eat it.
And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't at least touch upon this a little bit, like maybe if there's more of a backstory to it, because that fight we've referenced a couple times now in Grozny when you faced Ruslan Chagayev. I saw a picture around that time where I think it was like an open workout in Grozny, and Chechen dictator Ramzan Kadyrov was there. Like, what was the backstory on that? That seemed like an interesting picture I saw on your Twitter account that someone had, or I guess you retweeted, someone else posted,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
During the entire process, I was treated like a superstar. So I had no issue of any sort with anyone. Um, they appointed two, maybe three guards around the clock with guns and everything like that. We were fully protected for whatever reason. And the Kadyrov bit was funny because he was doing pads and doing this, doing that, and literally he is the man. Everyone just bows to his feet. Whatever he does, whatever he says, it's the funniest thing you've ever heard. And yeah, he was literally the man. And I remember watching a cabinet meeting, and all the other cabinet members had their military uniforms on. He had a pair of jeans and a leather jacket. I'm like, yeah, that's him. That sort of sums him up completely. And then we were in the ring taking those photos, and for whatever reason, he just went bang and hit me like I'd say 3/4 punch in the stomach. And I'm like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And I actually asked my minder after. I said, what happens if I hit him back? Because we would have shot you. But fair enough. So like it was a definite experience. It came to the point where like, should I say no to this opportunity of a lifetime just in case, or should I just go for it? And that's just the way I am. I just go for it no matter what. So it happened, it happened. But yeah, we're living after it. I should have been a millionaire at least and had a very different life and all story, but my very next fight was in Australia for $10,000. So very big difference.
Yeah, and obviously that's a blow for sure. But I mean, your story is quite incredible, man. I mean, I'm kind of like trying to be mindful of the time, but also I feel like I have so much that I can talk to you about for
Chat
sure.
away.
But
It's all good. Yeah, chat away.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. Yeah. But I guess one of the things that I did want to touch on was the, Dillian White fight that you had, like more so in the context of his recent outing against Moses Atalma
Mm.
and everything. And it doesn't seem like he's looking to retire. I saw a recent article where he's like, I'll be back. It was just a rough loss, that kind of thing. I guess what were your
Yeah.
thoughts on that performance from Moses Atalma? It seems like many are touting him as that next great heavyweight in a sense.
I don't know about great heavyweight, but definitely he is on fire and well done to the kid. He's only young, so that's great. Um, I've heard through the grapevine, no, there's absolutely no I can't guarantee any of this information, but Dillian White like hurt and or broke his ankle like prior, but he still was going for a payday no matter what. So he did look like absolute shit. I won't lie. And against me, he was literally on fire. He was top three in the world and was on fire. Usually, when people fight me, they are the best you've ever seen because it's me. No matter what, I could be losing 11 rounds and I'll still knock you out in the 12th because I got the power to do so. So, yeah, people are generally the best they've ever been. And he was. I wasn't mentally sort of there and physically I wasn't as good as I should have been. And he was on fire. So I think when he turned up for his last fight, he was nowhere near that person. And you could tell from the start.
Yeah, I mean, well said. Very different performances and junctures in his specific career
Mm,
that he fought you, and then the Atalma fight happened for
mm,
sure. But I guess I partly mentioned that too because there was a brief time where you had announced your retirement on that Lomachenko Kambosos card, and
mm.
Lomachenko has since retired from all of that. So I guess what are your thoughts on Vasily Lomachenko hanging up the gloves just because you have that connectivity being on that card with him prior and all?
I still think he's one of the best to ever put gloves on. And yeah, him and Usyk are very closely tied with everything they've done. So I've always loved watching Vasily for sure. And yeah, if he thinks it's time, it's time. It's fair enough. He's definitely done enough. And there's a certain point where you think, I've taken enough punishment to the head, like, and that's a really a concern that a lot of boxers have. I know personally, being 46, I've literally got a year or so left. That's it. I've called it my what do I call it? Sorry, it's like my final tour. So I'm going around Europe, UK, etc., all that sort of stuff, just fighting, making some money. These aren't big paydays of any sort, but they're definitely keeping me afloat. Fight as much as I can. I'm heading over to Germany October 11 for a boxing fight. So I'm just keeping it rolling. Meet people, travel, it's my time. My youngest is 21 years old, so I don't have to worry about the kids side of things at the moment. So it's all my time, and it's my selfish era basically. So I'm just doing me.
Well, it's cool that you're concurrently doing gloved boxing and bare knuckle boxing. That's awesome, and everything like that. It'd be a good way to, I guess, go out on your own terms and whatnot from how
Mm.
you're kind of laying it out.
Um, I think like there's only so much you can do with the bare knuckle, like because of the damage factor on either hands and or face. You can't just do it regularly. So I want to keep active. I don't want to. My next fight's booked in for over in Wales in December for the bare knuckle. But like, I'm not going to do nothing until then. I want to fight. So if I can get two or three, which I probably won't, but if I get two boxing fights, I'll do them because I never really hurt my hands. There's not too much damage, and obviously picking the right opponents is very important as well. So I won't be taking some, for example, Dillian White fight. The guy's 8-0, up and comer. So yeah, it should be all in my favour, and we're picking the right fights for the right, time in my career, but also for the BKB as well.
Has there been, I guess, a specific opponent outlined for you in your BKB return in December, or is it more of just like a discussion about wanting you on that particular card and the specifics haven't been ironed out so much?
No, I've got the three fight deals. I've been told, obviously, the one I was just on December, and then I believe it's America early next year or sometime next year. I don't know where. If all goes well, I'm assuming I'm sort of creeping up towards some sort of world title shot. Again, I'm not too, I don't know what's going on with all that. They, some people are pushing the Sokolowski fight, which is fair enough, but I know he's got other things on as well, so he won't forego a world title shot to fight me, And so see how it all works out. I'd probably prefer not to fight him in bare knuckle yet. I'll fight him later because I'm still learning. I'd rather do that. So if we're going to fight boxing, by all means, let's go. But with the bare knuckle aspect, I know I've got a lot to learn first, and I want to make sure it's the right time for the Sokolowski fight because he's a hard man. He really is a hard man.
And there's been talk about the championship a couple times, and Sokolowski was previously lined up to contend for that belt. I guess, like, what are your thoughts on the BKB heavyweight champion Gustavo Trujillo? He seems to be quite the, demonstrable KO artist and very successful on the circuit. Like, what are your thoughts on Gustavo?
I'll be honest, I've only had a quick look. I haven't sort of dove in just yet, but it looks great, yeah. And that is also the beauty of the bare knuckle. Like it doesn't take much. If you just catch the right time and or the right moment, it's a knockout for sure. But at the very least, you're doing some sort of damage, which will inevitably come into the fight, like in the end anyway. So. Um, I like what I see of him, but I haven't looked at as much as what I should have yet.
Well, I mean, I guess to your point, you're incrementally kind of working your way up in the sport. So maybe it's like a case by case basis, like study each individual sort of consideration. But I guess one of the things that I found across like a couple articles when I was doing my research on you, I saw you were saying that Mark Hunt was by far the hardest puncher that you've ever, been in there with, like in terms of like working with them and all that. And he's kind of teased a desire to want to come over to bare knuckle and fight in BKFC specifically. Like, how well do you think someone like that could do in bare knuckle? He would seem very well suited for this game.
Because of his stature and his presence, he'll do very well regardless. But he can definitely take a hit. Like when I sparred him, I'd only just started MMA, so I was probably one, maybe two fights in, and that was it in my entire career. So I my the guy that owned the gym said, "We've got a sparring partner for you," and it was him. I'm like, wow. So I jumped in and I was giving him some good hits, and he's just smiling back at me. And then he went bang, one big hit straight in the forehead. I'm like, wow, all right. So like, it didn't knock me out, but like, it was just a shock through the system. And again, if his knuckles can hold up, he'll do so well because the chin that he has is very good. So he'll be able to sort of roll and do this, that. And he's fought for so many years. So he knows what he's doing. and it's just about the right timing for him, and he'll knock everyone out. So I think he's perfect for it.
Yeah, it would be super interesting to see him come over and see, what he would be able to do and everything like that. I guess in terms of, I guess maybe how you curate your preparations for something like bare knuckle versus say like what you've done in MMA or
Mm.
gloved boxing. Like, are there particular, I guess, unique considerations or techniques that you find yourself getting up to preparing for bare knuckle? Like, did you do something a great deal different in this BKB 45 lead up versus like how you would handle a prior gloved boxing or MMA set of preparations?
I personally have done like this much of kung fu, and that also consists of the hand conditioning and that sort of stuff. So the only difference between this and a boxing fight for me was I did 10 times more hand conditioning. That was it. So like I would normally do it on a regular basis, but like this was like a constant thing for me because the last thing I wanted was to go bang and like there we go, broken hand. So prep was the same. The fitness is always the same, like the head movement and that part of it. I think is very similar in every way. But definitely for me, the hand conditioning was a must.
And I mean, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on this either, just because you're also aspiring to be a two sport champion, just as Paulie Malignaggi is. I guess a bit of a two-part question. Like, how do you see his fight with Tyler Goodjohn going, or even just general thoughts on that Tyler Goodjohn fight? And I guess as an extension, like, what are your thoughts on, I guess, Paulie Malignaggi's pursuit of becoming a two sport champion in bare knuckle as you are?
I like the guy. I've met him a couple of times, taken photos, etc. I like the fact that he's a very like switched on person in regards to the boxing or the fighting styles and stuff. So he knows what he's doing. He's been there and he's done that. So I think he has all the attributes to come away with a win. It's sort of that one where he's the only one that's going to lose that fight. So if he doesn't turn up or he doesn't perform, that's why he's lost, not because of anything else. Um, but I think it'll be something that we see more of as well. All the boxers coming over, particular like myself and Paulie, where we're sort of at the end of our career and or finished, but just give it a go, and I think that'll encourage a lot more people to come into it as well.
Yeah, and also what I was seeing in some of my, I guess, research on you as well is that you've gotten in some sparring work with Tyson Fury previously. Like, what do you, I think, could await him next? Like, I know he teased maybe like hanging up the gloves, but it seems like he, put out a thing for a third Usyk fight and whatnot, trying to drum up, I guess, some discourse about that, but also some back and forth with Anthony Joshua. I mean, that would be a big domestic clash in Britain that's kind of been teased on and off throughout the years. Like, what do you, I guess, foresee as being like a next thing for Tyson Fury and all?
I do think the Joshua fight should be a must. Regardless of the Usyk fight, the Joshua fight should be a must because there's been so much talk about it in the past, and it's something that everyone does actually want to see, which is good. Unfortunately, when it comes to Tyson Fury, you can't take a word he says seriously. So he's an absolute champion of a bloke. We were talking once at one of his press conferences for a fight, and we were having the most normal of conversations. And they said, "Yeah, Tyson, we're on." Shirt come off, and the pork chop came out. Like it's just he does it for the camera, and he does it so well. Don't get me wrong; I'm not knocking him. He does it so well. It's just not who I am, and I can't. If you try and force that, it does come across that way as force. Where him is just a natural progression. So I really like the way he does things. um, with in regards to the sparring session, I was a week out from my fight with Dillian White, and I was still signed with Ricky Hatton in Manchester. Now, Ricky Hatton's fighter the week before fought, but he hurt his hand, so he couldn't jump in for sparring with me. So he called down Tyson Fury. Now, luckily, I had my headgear and everything else on. Tyson was throwing spinning back elbows and all sorts of things, just being an absolute like donut with it. In a fun way, but like, come on, I've got a fight next week. Let's go, So it was a great experience. Beautiful to meet him and his father, and I think his couple of his brothers were there. So it was a great experience to have, regardless. But it wasn't exactly a sparring session, no.
Well, that's interesting to kind of get the behind the scenes intel on that and stuff like that. I guess it kind of speaks to, I guess, aspects of his personality as we've kind of touched
Mm,
on a little bit too.
mm. 100%. He's definitely Mr. Personality. 100%. You can't go wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And I saw you had a picture, I guess, maybe not quite a year ago, but I guess close to that point, wishing Joseph Parker a happy birthday. Like, what are your thoughts on his Fabio Wardley fight coming up in October? That would seem like a big one for the heavyweight hierarchy and all.
I think that the best thing that Parker's ever done was to hook up with the Fury side of things. I think he's just changed a little bit and he's become so much better. He's got that little bit more aggro, which I think he needed. He's obviously very. Do you want the key? He's got the intellect and the mindset of a boxer, but he just needed to bring that sort of mongrel a bit more. So he's been there, done that as well in regards to the world title, etc. But it's a different level when you go over to like the UK, for example, and do that. And I've found that myself. Most of the Australian fighters head overseas and they get beat. So there's no point sort of fighting Australia or your life thinking you're the absolute bee's knees. And then when it comes to a world standard, you're nothing. Joseph's shown that he is world standard. He's done very well with what he's done. And I think he's going to do very well against Wardley. Wardley's still young in regards to what he's sort of come up against. And I do think Parker's got it all over him.
Yeah, very interesting fight for sure. And I guess one of the last things that I wanted to touch on while I have you, just because I consider this such an impressive victory in many regards, just the legacy that he was able to put together. Like, what are your, I guess, recollections of that James Toney victory you secured in 2013?
Um, it was funny because there was no way he should have been a heavyweight. Like I'm not under any sort of delusion that he should not have been there in the first place. But at the same time, I was up and coming. We sort of met in a somewhat even playing field. He's still James Toney when it comes to boxing, no matter what. Like whether he can understand what the guy says or not is a very different story. But I got to the 10th round. I thought, all right, I've pretty much won every round, and I've kept him long on purpose because I don't want to stay too close. And I thought, should I go for a knockout or not? And then I thought, if I go for a knockout and get caught, I'm going to look stupid. So I just kept doing what I was doing and went the 12 rounds. So that was an actual, from my point of view, a very respectful thing for his talent. So I wasn't going to be any stupid because at any point he could still knock me out. So I was very respectful about that. But I at some point I think I broke something because he was dribbling and there was blood everywhere and he couldn't talk. I'm like, no, I've done something. So for me, it was my stepping stone fight. It was a world title, but it was the WBF world title. So for me, as an up and coming fighter, to get a world title and against James Toney was like the best thing that could have happened for me. So definitely a milestone moment for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like great fight IQ and composure from someone who, I mean, as you said, very early on in your journey. So something to be said for that piece as well, just not getting overzealous and trying to, force the knockout and whatnot. It seems like you had great composure and decision making in that moment early on in your career as well.
Yeah, I'd done. I was probably 12 or so years into doing security work, so bouncer, etc. So I'd always been around fighting and or violence, etc. Stuff like that. So yeah, the fact I went into a ring with two people that have the similar intent, a referee, of course, if something goes wrong, but then if I win, people cheer. So I was in my element. So I was always very relaxed because I didn't have to worry about his friend coming from behind with a chair and all these sort of things. So from my point of view, I enjoyed the fact that it was just me and him and that was it.
Yeah, just incredible stuff, man. You've had such an incredible career and many more great chapters in this story to unfurl. It sounds like, I mean, December with the BKB return and looking to get some boxing action before then, too. So, love to hear all that, man. But like I was kind of saying before, I do want to be mindful of your time, Lucas. So I guess in saying that, is there maybe a final thought you would want to add as we're kind of wrapping things up here? I really do appreciate you making the time today, man.
I have found that I've always had haters, which is great because I think if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right or wrong, whatever it is. But yeah, um, my haters have been very quiet for a number of years, and now they're all out again. So I just want to say thank you to the haters because now I know I'm on the right path again. And just stay tuned because there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, great way to enter the bare knuckle space with that BKB 45 win over Corey Harrison, the Doctor Stoppage TKO, and super excited to see the next fight and just what you're going to do in glove boxing, in the interim as I was kind of outlining there. But again, Lucas, thanks so much for coming on Bare Knuckle Bowker today. You have a good rest of your day with the training that you were referencing before, and yeah, thanks so much for the time, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.